All right. After all that technical difficulty, I finally managed to get on here. Those of you who were patiently waiting, I hope you come back. By the way, my name's 12 Gauge. Thank you for being here. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time being here, I'm glad that you stopped by and were able to come say hello to the channel. I hope you find something that interests you, that enables you to keep coming back. If you are a returning customer, thank you for coming back and giving this channel a try. I know it's not easy sometimes based on the content that I show. It's not always the most popular, but I try to do my best as far as getting the information out on other avenues. I don't have the opportunity to want to talk about other things. Um, Not at this time, anyway. So tonight, I want to talk about the Idaho 4. So, did Idaho killer deliberately leave the knife sheath at the crime scene? And that's what we're going to start talking about. Everything I talk about goes under fair use. I try to give credit to the people who do the hard work, create the videos, create the articles, because I don't want to deny them the copyright that they deserve. I'm going to start off with this article. It is from the Daily Mail. I'm going to read a little bit of this and then we'll discuss it. Even if there's not anybody in the chat right now, but things happen. Anyway, it said, did Idaho killer deliberately leave the knife sheath at the crime scene? Expert explains how DNA covered blade case could help Brian Koberger's defense. One thing I want to say really quickly, I've been losing followers because for whatever reason, they believe that I believe that Brian is guilty. And that's not what I believe at all. If I've said that in some other videos, I believe that I said that I'm on the fence. I don't know at this point, but I like to show both sides regardless of the fact. So please try to refrain from unsubscribing from me based on your impression of what I believe or don't believe. I know at one point I stated he could be guilty or he could be not guilty. Either way, it's going to happen the way it's going to happen. So that's my take on that. So please give me the opportunity to present what I'm trying to present without discriminating me into one area or the other. And that's all I got to say about that. It says the Idaho quadruple murder suspect may have left the knife sheath at the crime scene as a part of a remarkably clever move to get off the hook, a criminologist suggested. This was published January 17, 2023. David Wilson, a criminology professor at Birmingham City University in the UK, suggested accused killer Brian Koberger was too smart to leave evidence behind, and that he may have done so as a tactic to pull off the perfect crime. I ask you this: do you believe that he pulled off the perfect crime if this was the possibility? I did a poll earlier where I asked if people believed he was guilty or not guilty, and I got a couple of people that responded. And if I have time and I'm not going too long, I might go back and show you the poll. It said, Wilson said much of the evidence against Koberger could be framed as coincidental by the defense, including Koberger's DNA found on the sheath, which he said transferred very easily between people and objects. It has been speculated Koberger left enough evidence at the scene to prompt his arrest, but not enough to conclusively convict him beyond a shadow of a doubt. Such a move could see Koberger charged and then exonerated, leaving him free from the shadow of possible arrest for the rest of his life, thanks to the double jeopardy laws, which prevent people from being charged with the same crime twice. The perfect crime would not be to kill and escape justice, but to kill and use the justice system itself to truly get away with murder. For those of you that believe that he committed the perfect crime, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. One prominent criminologist has suggested suspected University of Idaho murderer Brian Koberger did not leave behind critical evidence at the scene of the accident. There's Mr. Koberger arrest picture. This was the knife sheath at the crime scene. There's 14 crime scene photos, maybe? I don't know. See what these are. There's Mr. Koberger doing push ups. Lost 100 pounds while he was in training. Let's see what this criminologist has to say.
Now then, it's the case which has made headlines around the world. In a small city in Idaho, the local community has been rocked by the tragic and brutal murder of 4 university students. On the 13th of November, in the small town of Moscow in Idaho, 4 university students...
Okay, we know all that already. The criminologist was responding to host Philip Schofield, who called the abandoning of the knife sheath a remarkably clumsy move. Wilson said, "One of the things that really struck about me about the person that's been arrested and accused of this is he is intelligent and high functioning." He argued DNA can be transferred from person to person and said he believes the defense may bring that up in trial. I could have your DNA, speaking to Holly Willibly, your DNA is on me. I could go wherever I wanted and go to the next hour, and your DNA would still be where I go to. So the defense is clearly going to present issues that will suggest that Koberger is innocent. As far as Koberger's cell phone pings, which put him in Moscow area on the date of the killing and in the weeks beforehand, Wilson offered an explanation for that too. Moscow isn't so far away from Washington State University, so it would be natural that there would be some kind of those towers that might ping, he said. There are just 8 miles between Washington State University's campus in Pullman, where Koberger studied, and Moscow, Idaho, where the murders took place. There will be a defense. During a recent episode of the Law and Crime Sidebar podcast, the chief public defender for Monroe County, Pennsylvania, Jason Labar, said the evidence is not so clear-cut. The Pennsylvania public defender's comments on the knife sheath, which was found next to one of the victims, was shrugged off by Labar as touch or transfer DNA, which would mean that it could remain on the sheath for an indefinite period of time if undisturbed, Labar stated. That's one way of attacking that type of evidence, that it doesn't put him at the scene of the crime the night out, just that he merely touched that sheath at some point in time. Labar also said police used cell phone tower pings rather than GPS location to put him at the scene 12 times before the quadruple homicides. If it was GPS location coordinates, you're talking down to the meter as to where Brian Koberger was at the time of these crimes. Whereas a cell phone tower ping is that you're within a radius of that tower up to 20 miles. Obviously, Mr. Koberger lived within 10 miles of the University of Idaho, where these crimes were committed. He certainly could ping at any moment in time near the actual crime. Koberger was arrested on December 30th in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, after a cross-country road trip where he was a PhD student. The criminology student had been charged with 4 counts of murder in the first degree and 1 count of felony burglary in this incident. The 4 counts of first-degree murder are connected to the fatal stabbings. We know who they are. Koberger has maintained his innocence since the arrest, and his lawyers have told media outlets their client is eager to be exonerated in the November 13th murders. Wilson's suggestions come after a former FBI investigator said Koberger may have been motivated to kill the student due to an incel complex. The term incel is short for involuntary celibate and is used to describe men who have trouble establishing romantic relationships. Pete Yacksmith said he believed the criminology student may have been attempting to assert some dominance in the stabbings. Yaksowitz noted Koberger's history of social issues over the years. That classmates have since described him as a troubled, disgruntled young man who did not fit in. That does not mean that you're a killer. The former FBI official told the New York Post, the brutality of the killing speaks to the situation. I believe a continued stabbing of a victim indicates an uncontrollable rage and extreme anger, he stated. There's young Brian right there. I think he may have developed an incel complex. The murders may have been an effort to assert some kind of dominance. I don't know if y'all believe this or not. Others have agreed with the incel diagnosis. I've been saying that from the beginning that he's an incel. Carol Lieberman, a forensic psychiatrist, states. Dr. Lieberman pointed to the victim, 3 of which were young females in college. She also said the report the alleged killer returned to the scene intrigued her. Incels like to be known for when they kill people or when they have a conquest like this. Former classmates of Koberger's have talked openly in recent weeks about how he was bullied, overweight kid who changed after high school. The whole clique of popular girls made fun of him in school. They were the cheerleaders and the ones that every kid had crushes on, who did not wish to be identified as a Daily Mail. They literally tortured him, girls stated. Started making fun of him in middle school, the person said. Well, how many people have been in this position in their lives, honestly? I don't know a single person in life that's went through middle school that wasn't made fun of at one point. Koberger eventually lost 100 pounds after he took up boxing. He was a totally different person. He worked out constantly and was super aggressive. He had a short fuse and was constantly trying to change his style and personality to fit in with the cliques. Earlier this month, Daily Mail reported on a woman who posted a TikTok video saying she had been on her Tinder date with Koberger about 7 years ago. Y'all remember that person. There she is right there. She got grossed out because he said she had good birthing hips. After going to watch a movie, they went back to her room. Koberger kept touching her, she said, and we all know the story. Things got weird after he said he didn't touch her, which she says he did. You're though, she was retorting, saying that Koberger was attempting to gaslight me into thinking that he didn't touch me, which is weird. She also claimed Koberger followed her to the bathroom and stood outside the door, which he also thought was weird. You know, that's interesting about people these days. They take any kind of information as being weird or creepy because that's how they choose to define things. Him being outside the door could have been nothing more than care and concern. You know, he could have been playing around with her. Maybe he liked her. Maybe he was trying to create some kind of connection with this person. But to her, that was creepy. Um, so it goes on and on and on. It talks about the pending court date, and that's pretty much all of that. So it didn't really say much, but you know, the professional thought it was enough to possibly get him off of the knife sheath, because that's basically what everybody is trying to focus on at this point. Now we're going to talk about the K-bar knife. I'm going to give you some background information that I've yet to see done other than by myself. We're going to learn how durable a K-bar knife really is based on the Backcountry Chronicles, fishing, hunting, and outdoor tips. It says a full-size USMC K-bar fighting knife with serrated edge review. In an earlier post, we discussed the need to add a utility survival knife to our gear, and we also made a list of things to consider for a good survival knife. This was primarily going to be his wife's knife because she had been the driving force leading to the decision to ultimately buy the K-bar fighting knife. Like always, before spending money on something, we spent some time reviewing and researching about knives online so she had a good idea what she wanted. So the next excuse we had to make the hour-long trip to town, we're checking the knife displays at several stores. So look at that K-bar knife right there. Doesn't that thing look huge? I'm sorry, I'm kind of exhausted. I ate Taco Tuesday and I'm like extremely full. I totally killed my diet tonight. I knew she wanted a real utility knife to use as a survival tool and not just a Hollywood inspired, chromed out, testosterone dripping, wannabe tactical knife. And I knew she wasn't planning on spending much more than $100. I was curious about which knife she would actually choose. I assumed she might pick something on the smaller end of the scale, but I'm not sure why, because she regularly works with some pretty big knives in the kitchen. She looked at a variety of knives, but decided that a large Bowie knife with a 10 to 12 inch blades and the Big Brother version of the K-bar were too big. She rejected the Sog Seal knife because it didn't have a straight spine and it cost more than $100. She also rejected the Sog Seal Pup, the small size K-bar, because they were too small, 4.75 and 5.25 inches respectively. She also looked at more expensive options and still decided they didn't offer anything to justify the cost. So, in the end, she chose the full-size black K-bar knife made in the USA with the synthetic rubber Kraton G handle instead of the stacked leather washer handle of the more traditional USMC version of the knife. She also decided on a partially serrated edge version of the K-bar knife. So, how did a full-size black K-bar knife with the partial serrated edge stack up to the best survival knife checklist? So, here we go. Those of you that want to know exactly how these knives are and what they're willing to hold up to, first of all, fixed blade. The fixed blade length of the full-size K-bar knife is 7 inches, and the total length of the knife is 11.75 inches long. The knife also weighs in at 0.65 pounds, 10.5 ounces, or 294 grams. So that's needed. That's what you were looking for, a fixated blade, the length of it, 7 inches. The full tang, it says the full size K-bar has a full tang. Click on the link to see a naked K-bar blade. The best view of the blade is at the grinding link. Also click on the cap pin assembly to see how the tang is secured. So I would say the tang is a double piece right here. Solid handle with a hilt and flat pommel. So it's the synthetic rubber Kraton handle has a solid feel, and the handle has an ample productive hilt protective hilt that extends at least a half an inch from the handle on both top and bottom. The flat pommel holds a pin that extends through the tang. I've seen this knife criticized for having a hilt that was too big and too small by different people. Too small for great big hands and too big for doing fine detailed work. I'm not sure why each of them bought the knife, but it seemed to be around both my hands and my wife's hands for a general utility knife. So now we're getting to the blade metal. So this is where some of the questions come into. Was the metal in this K-bar knife durable enough to hold up to 4 stabbings? It says carbon steel or stainless steel. The K-bar knife is made of Crovan steel, chrome, and vanadium, which according to K-bar is also known as Sharon Steel Company 170-06, 1095 Crovan, or 109S5C. The Crovan steel rates 56 to 58 on the Rockwall's hardness scale. So I would say that that's pretty good. So the blade metal is pretty durable. Said the blade design, the K-bar we chose was partially serrated blade with a 6.5 inch of the blade is sharpened and a 1.75 inches is serrated. The blade has a straight spine and typical of many Bowie knives. The tip is a slight concave clip point with an unsharpened swage grind for a sharper tip. This area right here. The original marine fighting knives had a sharp swages for backslashing and stabbing, but due to laws in many states against double-edged blades, K-bar no longer sharpened to swage. After using that knife, we prefer the unsharpened swage for a survival utility knife. One online reviewer questioned if the K-bar knife without a sharpened swage could still kill a bear. Of course it could. Personally, if I knew I was scheduled to fight a bear, I would bring a gun to the party. But if I had no other options, I would rather go knife to claw with a black bear with a full-size K-bar knife with an unsharpened swage than any other knife I have. Like John Staubach was credited for saying, if you find yourself in a fair fight, your tactics suck. The full-size K-bar knife also had 2.5-inch fuller to reduce the weight of the blade without any sacrifice in strength. Some call the fuller a blood groove, which refers to the erroneous idea that a groove is needed to allow blood to drain out and allows the air back in to reduce the suction, so the blade could be pulled out of the body. Did you just hear that? It says 2.5-inch fuller to reduce the weight of the blade without any sacrifice in strength. Some call the fuller a blood groove, which refers to the erroneous idea that a groove is needed to allow blood to drain out and allows the air back in to reduce the suction. The blade length 4 to 9 inches. Check. Thickness. The blade thickness of the K-bar knife is 0.165 inches, which it isn't very thick, but it's long. So, it's pretty durable. Lanyard holes for security and lashing to pole. So the lanyard holes are these on the backside that you tie to your belt. They said no. The full-size K-bar does not have any lanyard holes, but what it does have is 5 deep grooves in the handle and the hilt extend to at least 1/2 inch on top and bottom. If needed, I can use the grooves and tilt to lash or wire the knife to a pole to make a spear. So I would say probably around this area right here. There's some holes there. Useful sheath. Since the sheath is the most important part of this whole knife because they have not found the knife and they focused all their energy on this sheath. Is this something that is durable and useful? It says maybe. The sheath that came from the knife is a black leather sheath. Nothing special. It does have a very wide loop to fit any size belt and a snapping strap to hold the knife securely. The sheath also has a hole near the point, so the sheath could be strapped to your leg if you like that sort of thing. We haven't carried the knife in the rain yet, so the sheath hasn't had a chance to get wet. I think if it were raining, I would throw the sheath in the pack to keep it dry. That's very interesting right there. He said it has the sheath has a hole near the point, so the sheath could be strapped to your leg. Nobody that I've heard talk about this sheath has even said anything like that. They talk about, well, I'd have it on my belt, I'd have it, around my waist. Hello, everybody that's in the chat. GM Carey, J&J. Thank you for being here. But it's very, very seldom talked about strapping this to your leg. So what if he strapped it to his leg? That could explain why it could have fell off. It was at a low point, not the waist area, but around the leg part, the thigh. So it's a whole hell of a lot easier to probably it come off there than it would be the waist area. Survival, not tactical. The black K-bar knife, as well as other full-size versions of the historic marine fighting knife, is really more of a robust and versatile tool than a specialized tactical knife designed for special combat or rescue purposes. So it's used for survival, not tactical. So that means that it's probably used more to survive the elements rather than for fighting purposes. A great all-purpose survival utility knife. See? So if you had to do it again, would you buy a full-size K-bar? Yes, especially for the price. We bought the black K-bar knife for about $65 in 2005 with the leather sheath. Our full-size K-bar came out of the box with a very sharp edge. We've tested it a few times, cutting and splitting wood, cutting heads off fish, and a few chores around the house, and the edge is still good. One of the reviews I read about the K-bar knife sums it up very well. The full-size K-bar knife is very good at many tasks, but not excel at any. But isn't that exactly what we want for a general purpose survival utility knife? Could I use my K-bar fighting knife to cut wood for the shelter or for to fire? Yes, but I would rather use an axe or a saw or even my machete. Could I use a K-bar knife to field dress an elk or a deer? Yes, but again, I would use other knives I have if I had a choice. So if you're going to field dress something, this individual is saying that he'd rather use other knives instead of the K-bar. Could I use it for self-defense? Yes, again, but I would go for my 45 first if I could get my hands on it. But yes, this is the best fighting knife. Could I use it to dig for bait, cut line, clean fish? Sure, and the list goes on and on and on. So K-bar consumer rating, full-size K-bar fighting knife, got 5 stars. It says, but make sure when you are looking for a K-bar knives in Amazon that the seller is K-bar so you get the real thing and not a poor quality knockoff. There are other sellers that sell K-bar knives at Amazon, but I limited the original quality K-bar that ship from and are sold by Amazon directly because they always make good on any issue. Of the 299 original reviews, 254 of the reviews gave the K-bar fighting knives 5 stars, 85%. It is interesting that one reviewer gave the K-bar knife only 2 stars. They did so because the knife was not sharp when he received it. He sharpened it itself and stated that he still recommended the knife. Another 2-star rating stated that the quality was unbeatable, but the full-size knife was way smaller than the similar K-bar knives. Not sure what this means or why the low rating. Several of the ratings were 3 stars or less, seemed to be as much about rating the sheath for a poor quality or for the fact the sheath was not made in the USA. One 3-star rating was because the knife was too big for his son to use for hunting and complained the knife was more like a weapon. What would you think a fighting knife was? When I originally wrote this post, there was only 1-star rating due to the shipping error. So this goes on and on and on to tell you more and more and more about it. And I also have another video in my video section that goes into the whole K-bar experience. It goes into the K-bar factory. It goes into telling you about how K-bar originated, how K-bar is used, and things of that nature. Now I'm going to go to CodeRedDefense.com and the reality of knife attacks. This video is 3 minutes and 35 seconds long. I want to show you guys this video because there's a lot of misconception about what a knife attack looks like in reality. And even though this is a simulated one, the guy explains it well. So let's watch this video.
Okay, guys, I'm going to be teaching you the reality of knife attacks. Now, I've been in 2 knife fights, working in clubs, and I know doormen who've been in knife fights. The scariest thing about a knife is, number one, it makes no noise when you use it, travels really fast. Whether you got a little tiny blade or you're holding this big blade over here, it's just as dangerous and could do just as much damage. Also, whether you're a knife expert, and we see a lot of the videos where the guys grab the knife and they're doing this stuff and they're doing this is not what a real knife fight looks like. Okay, a real knife fight, number one, most of the people who get stabbed don't even know they're stabbed, even in the middle of a fight. One of my friends got stabbed in a street fight. He didn't know he got stabbed until he got in the car. We drove in the car only after he knew that because of adrenaline. Okay, and whether you're a knife expert or whether you're just fucking psychotic, dangerous, you could be a 13-year-old, crazy kid who's out to prove something, you're just as dangerous. I'm actually more scared of these guys than the guy's going to pull out the knife and show it. A good knife fighter won't pull out his knife. You won't feel it until it's in your body, right? And he's not going to sit there. Most knife attacks are really dynamic where the person's going to come up to you, this is going to bitch it out, fucking, it's just going to start coming completely crazy without any real, technique and move this way. And it even becomes more unorthodox to stop this because it's just so wild and the attack is so savage. And you don't need to be a knife expert to do this, right? And again, how easy it is to get a knife? Go in your kitchen, open your drawer, and you got a knife. So it's not like it's really a hard weapon to get or to use, okay? And again, all this stuff you see, get him this way and cut him here and do this. No, a dynamic of a knife attack would look like this. I'm going to do a scenario with you, okay? This is how it's going to look. Ready? What's going on, man? Fuck, I remember you, motherfucker. You gonna fuck with me? That's how fast it's going to go, right? That you're probably going to get hit 2 or 3 times or maybe up to 5 times before the knife you realize you're getting stabbed, unless you're using your awareness. And I know that when I can't see his hand, my hand comes down here. If I'm not, right, and he pulls out his knife, starts stabbing, by the time I realize the knife is out, I've actually got stabbed probably 2 to 4 times, and only then it's going to kick in. Holy shit, I'm getting stabbed, because I'm probably going to feel this pumping movement. Okay, I'm not going to feel the stab wounds. I'm just going to feel this. Okay, which probably means nobody punches like this, so it means I'm getting stabbed. You should be alert and you should be able to pick that up. Okay, now we have a knife video, which is practically 2.5 hours long with full-out scenarios, full-out attack, static, dynamic. I mean, bigger guys, stronger guys, and it's just full-out attacks with the helmets. And and we're using markers where you could actually see the cuts, and you see the dangers, the complete dangerous aspect of being in a knife attack, and why we say, use your awareness, get out, diffuse. Guy wants your money, give him the money, comply. But when you got to fight, you have to know how. You have to understand the concepts and the principles that you need to know. There's no black and white. There's no bulletproof. There's no, always trap the knife, never trap the knife. It depends, right? It all depends on my attacker, depends on what's going on, right? So every situation is different.
That's awesome. I'm gonna go to their page and see if I can find that 2.5 hour thing because I want to show you guys some of the markers. I think that would be awesome to see because many people are naive when it comes to what a knife fight or what a knife attack really is. They really are. I mean, they believe that a knife attack is just like what you see in the movies. And those very basic things he just showed you were pretty awesome, I thought. Where he's able to first he said many times people will not even realize that they're being stabbed. He said they will feel like they're being punched, and before they know it, they feel the plunge, and by that time they've already been stabbed 5 or 6 times. So I don't see that on here, but I see some other knife defense. Let's see. I'm gonna show you one in a confined space because that's what basically the bedrooms were, very confined. So I want to show this video to you guys. Yeah, very, very intense. I mean, a lot of people don't realize it. A lot of people do not realize they've been stabbed. For a lot of individuals, they think they've just been punched and they've been stabbed 3, 4, 5 times. Let's watch this one. This is knife defense in a confined space.
Hey guys, Nick Drosos, I'm here with Patrick, Code Red Defense. One of the common questions I get and comments is, well, against a knife, I'm just gonna run. I just run. Like, you're crazy to be teaching knife defense. You can't defend. All I would do is run. Now, let's be realistic, right? Let's come closer, Eva. Come over here. Come in. Go all the way to the end of it, or actually stay right there. I'll tell you why. Patrick, come over here. If he has a knife, go more back. Patrick, go all the way there. Stop right there. And now I see him coming with a knife. Ready? Run. I would never have enough time to open this door and escape. Not only that, by the time I do this, the guy has my back. My chances of surviving this attack are far greater of me turning around and facing my attacker than trying to run, open the door, and try to escape. I'm completely vulnerable in this right here. If I'm doing this, boom, I'm getting stabbed. Then I got to turn around and I still have to fight him. So this idea that people always say, oh, I'm just going to run. Yes, if I'm here and this, boom, and I could run, for sure I'm going to run. But if you're in a closed environment, if you're in your house, in an elevator, in a staircase, anywhere that you have a distance, but you got to do another movement that's going to slow you down, like open a door or like, move stuff out of the way or whatever it is, you're risking it because, again, you're giving your back to your opponent. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want to learn more self-defense, go visit our website, codereddefense.com. We have a fantastic 2.5 hour knife.
Let me pull up that website, codereddefense.com. That's where the 2.5 hour one. Yeah, a lot of people do not have the understanding of how these things how they take place, how easy it is to be trapped in those small confined spaces. Yeah, I found some. I found some knife stuff here, but these are just like, they want you to pay for this stuff. So let me see if I can find any on the YouTube that is free. I don't feel like paying for self-defense videos that I have to go through yearly. There is some knife attacks right here. There's some more knife defenses. I've showed you the reality. Insane way to stop a knife attack. Self-defense. Concealed. I mean, there's a lot of videos on how to protect yourself on this website on YouTube, but they're short, so they're probably thumbnails. I'm gonna show one more, and then we're gonna talk about it. This one I want to show because, since we're talking about the knife attack, we're pretty certain that Kaylee saw it coming. Ethan may or may not have saw it coming. Xana definitely saw it coming. So, how to prepare for an attack. And many people don't know how to do this. The average person doesn't. Most people, they're going to put their hands out in front of their face or wherever they believe that they're about to get punched or whatever. Let's see what he shows. Code Red.
Hey guys, Nick Droso from Code Red Defense, and today we're going to be looking at knife defense. We're going to talk about how to prepare if you see your attacker with possibly having a knife, concealing a knife, or if I can't see his hands, or one of his hands are behind his pocket, or maybe he's reaching for something. Awareness is the key. The number one thing, the quicker you can respond and the quicker you're looking at his hands and his body language, the faster you can intercept the knife to either strike or run. Now, a lot of people ask, how do we train this? Guys, scenario training. So let's say I'm going to close my eyes now. Pat, you can conceal the knife somewhere. Okay, so now we're going to do a small little scenario where you're just going to talk to me. Go.
Hey, what's up, man?
What's up, man? Do I know you?
Yeah, you owe me money, man.
Shit, you sure it's me? Cause
Yeah.
From where do I owe you money?
Yeah, because like it's a long time ago, but I remember you, man.
Yeah?
Yeah, owe me $1,000.
$1,000 shit, man. Like, okay, you know what? I'll try to get that to you as quickly as I can, man. You know?
You get hurt today, man?
No, I really want to fight you, man. Like, break. Right now, my hands are just up. The key is anytime you're faced with an attacker, you have to be looking what's happening here. Can I see his hands? Is he angling off? Is he stopping? Is he trying to cut me off an angle? So this is very important because what happens when we go to tunnel vision, we're doing this stuff and we forget about everything that's going on down here. And I always say, like, getting into a fight or getting sucker punched or hit, yeah, it's a bitch. But if a guy pulls out a knife, where's your knife? If the guy is pulling out a knife and you see this, then your life is in danger. You can die in this range with a knife easily. So if I see him doing this and I'm talking and I see him doing, no, I'm going to jam it in right away. You want to make sure I trap that knife and I jam it here versus him pulling it out and then starting to work from here with it. It's those split seconds that are going to make all the difference when it comes to knife defense and your survival. But guys, if you want to learn more, we have a 3-hour knife defense video. All you have to do is click the link on the bottom. 3 hours jam-packed, teaching you everything you need to learn to keep your loved ones and yourself.
I don't know about you, but I mean, I wouldn't know how to I wouldn't know how to protect myself against a knife fight. I've never been taught that. And I know very many people haven't either. So for people to say, how did they not hear themselves, how did they not hear it? How did they not hear all the commotion? I'm about to show you something that happened. This guy in Sydney, Australia, I think, it says knife attacker kills at least 6 and wounds a baby. I want to show this, and it's 1 minute and 26 seconds long. I've seen this before. If this is the one that I'm meaning to show, it has some very, very intense, quick strikes. So those individuals that believe that it took a lot of time for somebody to do a knife attack and kill somebody, they're sadly mistaken. When you see these things in action, it actually makes you rethink a lot of things. I want you to watch this video. Tell me what you think afterwards.
Everyone move back! Everyone please move back!
Okay, this isn't the one that I wanted to show you, but this is one that shows how 6 people can be killed and even a baby. I mean, 6 people killed in a knife attack. But yet we have people saying there's no way that this happened. No way that this happened so quickly. You know? No way it happened. How did it happen so fast? Well, let's see this other knife attack. This guy actually shows a piece of meat. This one, hold on. Hold on a second. Let me share this with you guys. I hope you are enjoying this. If you're enjoying this, press a 1 in the chat. I don't even know how many people are in the chat right now. Press a 1 if you're enjoying this. Cutting them that many times. Now look at this.
Many times, you will understand and truly appreciate the value of the knife. I'm just going to take a knife and I'm just going to give it an angle 1 and slash that baby in half. And I want you to see what it looks like. I want you to take a real long, deep look at this meat, because that's what your arm is going to be like. Just one simple shot. Now, as you notice, this was just the very first shot I did. This would be your arm.
If you like this, there's more in the description.
I mean, it's distressing to think about how quickly somebody could incapacitate you. You know how quickly it could happen. There's a lot of self-defense on here. So there's no reason that you couldn't go and look who's there. There's no reason that you couldn't go and protect yourself or learn how to protect yourself from a knife attack. We've watched these 2, 3. I'll have to look for the one that I've been wanting to show you and present it at another time. Right now, I want to pull up a video that I did before and kind of go over it a little bit on my channel. Let me see if I can find it. Y'all hang with me. I have quite a bit on here. Perfect. I say that long acquaintance can help you know. Okay. I'm going to talk about some serial killers. And I want you to, yeah, look, it was a very small knife. I don't know what kind of knife it was, but it was small. It wasn't a big one. It could have been a K-bar. I don't know. Let me see if I can find the one that I want to show you guys. Because I don't want to just show anything, you know? Okay, this is the one. That was part of it. So I don't get copyrighted. I'm showing a video by 12 gauge about wounds, x-rays, and the rest. Okay, I want to show this because it talks about self-defense against knife attacks, evidence-based approach. So we're going to show this a little bit, and I want you guys to really see exactly what this goes and what it does. So here we go. It says self-defense against knife attacks, evidence-based approach. And that's what we're after in the channel. Is we're after evidence-based approaches. We're not after hearsay. We're not after conspiracy. We're after the truth. It says in the article, I present the results of a detailed analysis of over 200 real knife attacks caught on surveillance cameras. The research was conducted in 2016 and updated several times since then. At one time, I wanted to understand the dynamics of real life situations and how an attacker was most likely going to use his weapon. This I thought was necessary in order to adopt realistic methods of self-defense against knife attacks. No one had done it, so I decided to give it a go. Back in 2016, my initial idea was to keep the whole collection of videos accessible so other people could verify my result and investigate the topic further. Unfortunately, over the years, YouTube has cracked down on violent videos. My channel was closed and the collection lost. The results of my investigation are still valid and have been updated throughout the years. This article is structured in 3 parts. Part 1, present the key points of analysis of 200 plus knife attacks. Part 2, how to survive a knife attack. This addresses commonly debated issues such as awareness, avoidance, running away, compliance, the use of weapons, included improvised weapons in the context of knife attacks. Part 3. Bare hand techniques against the knife covers a variety of empty hand techniques from different schools of thought in view of what discussed in the first two sections. It says this is a substantial article because the results have stood the test of time and are easily verifiable. As of 2023, the evidence gathered so far suggests that human behavior is quite consistent in these situations. Only situations when the victim is attacked, physically assaulted, are considered in this article. Simple threats with no assault, sometimes misbelief, static attacks, were not considered because the main interest was the dynamics of the actual attack. And why are we discussing this? Because in the IDAHO4 case, the 4 victims were attacked with a fixed-bladed knife, speculated to be a K-bar due to the sheath that was left behind. It says 71.1% of knife attacks are led with the empty hand. So what does that mean? The fact that during a knife attack, aggressors usually lead with their free hand while keeping the knife close to their side was first pointed out in 1988 by Don Pentecost in his contentious book, Put 'Em Down, Take 'Em Out, Knife Fighting from Folsom Prison. So did you hear what I just said? It said 71.1 of knife attacks are led with the empty hand. The aggressors usually lead with their free hand while keeping the knife close to their side. So if the individual is walking in, they have the free hand. I can't tell if you're able to see that. Let me change the screen right quick. They walk in with their free hand to either gauge the situation or to involve themselves with whoever it is that they're having the issue with. So they have the free hand, and I can't show you the knife by my side because I'm not wearing pants. So don't want to really get banned from YouTube, but you get the picture. Back in the 80s, Pentecost simply and brutally shattered a number of popular myths and preconceived ideas about the use of knives in real life situations. Most commonly, what I just said a while ago, 71.1 of the time, aggressors will lead the attack with their empty hand, effectively shielding the knife, which would be in my right hand, and walking through ready to do some damage. As Pentecost also clearly stated, the empty hand is not a dead, paralyzed hand, and the attackers will use it to strike or more commonly to grab the victim. So think about what you've known about the Idaho 4 case and how it happened. Apparently, the 2 upstairs were attacked first, so if the perpetrator was going in with an empty hand and the other one with the knife close to his body, this hand was free to grab, to push, whatever needed to be done because the other hand had the knife in it. It said, indeed, when aggressors leave with their free hand, 80% of the time they will also use it to latch on to the victim. That makes a lot of sense. You're either going to grab them, either going to pull them toward you, cover their mouth, grab their throat, whatever it might be. This use of the empty hand, also known as the leveraging arm, greatly changes the dynamic of the fight, particularly because your first reaction as a victim will be conditioned by the movement of the aggressor's empty hand. More on that in part 3. But the prime lesson, though, is that most of what is taught in martial arts and RBSD industry, i.e. attacker leads with the knife, no grabbing, no forward pressure, doesn't apply to the vast majority or 70% plus of real life knife attacks. Say that 10 times really fast. So, okay, the next part says most knife attacks are ambushes, not duels. So if it's an ambush, It's not a duel. These four individuals in the Idaho 4 case were not in a duel. They were ambushed. For the same reasons bad guys would use a force multiplier such as a knife, they don't want a fair fight but an easy prey. They'll make the surprise attack on you from a concealed position or with concealed intentions, and you probably won't see it coming. The aggressor won't threaten the victim. Instead, he will just keep his weapon concealed until it's time to strike. Just like the other videos that I just showed a while ago, the last one didn't show the individual with the knife, and all of a sudden he pulled it out of his belt loop on the inside of his pants. So he didn't even have a sheath, and he pulled that knife out. So, the fact that the sheath was on the bed, was that sheath placed there? Was it knocked off? Was it, where did it come from? All we know is the knife wasn't there with the sheath. That's all we know. And I want to continue on with this because this is some valuable information. What they're saying is there's always going to be an empty hand. I mean, it makes sense. You're not going to go in with a knife sheath in one hand and a knife in the other, like some people have speculated. Okay, I'm going to read the bottom part. It says victims who survived a violent confrontation against a knife wielding assailant consistently reported that they were completely unaware of the existence of the weapon until they had suffered stab or slash wounds. That means just like what you saw in the other videos, many times you think you're being punched, but you're actually being stabbed. So how many of these victims of the four actually may have thought, hey, I'm being punched in the back. It's really not that big of a deal. Or I'm being punched in the side. I'm not going down. So what kind of punch is that? You know what I mean? And then when you realize it's a knife, all of a sudden you're bleeding. You're bleeding out. In essence, these survivors of edge weapon attacks state they believe they were engaged in some sort of fist fight. Only later, after sustaining injuries, did they realize that the assailant was armed. That is something right there. I don't know if you really get the gist of it, but that is something. That is hardcore right there. It says in 80% of the cases I've analyzed, the knife is kept hidden until the very last moment. That is until the attack is launched. So whoever did this, could they have kept the knife hidden until the very last minute? Could this have been something that was a targeted thing that, like they talked about? Could could this individual have waited till the last possible minute and then struck like a snake? Aggressors will try to distract the victim and wait for a good window of opportunity to strike and won't hesitate to attack the victim from the back. Situations with multiple attackers seemed less common, with only 11.4 of the incidents this person has reviewed. In a typical way, the victim is distracted, cornered, and the attack is launched at close quarters. And what do we know about the Idaho 4? Kaylee was cornered, isolated, very close quarters in that room. As far as Xana and Ethan, I really don't. I mean, we know that they were in that little room, but it appeared that they had a little more area to maneuver than in Maddie's room. Knives are short range weapon, so it doesn't come as a surprise that 70.6 of the knife attacks start as a conversation range. That means at arm's length. 70.6 of knife attacks are launched within 3 feet of the victim. 3 feet. 3 feet of the victim. It's important, though, to stress that within 3 feet really means an arm length or less. This leaves you with very little space and time to react. Such a small trajectory means that it's almost impossible to stop the first stab if you're not expecting it. And you'll probably think it was a punch, so you're really not going to react to it until there's 4 or 5 in you. This is why it's so important to maintain distance and keep control of the space when you're in a confrontation. It said the aggressors so often lead with their free hand, usually the left one. Victims end up being stabbed in the neck, like in the video above, or the chest or the left side where the heart is located. As we know, Kaylee was stabbed around the liver area. She was stabbed in the chest area. And that's probably all I remember. So they lead with their free hand, usually the left one. Victims end up being stabbed in the neck. So I'm pretty sure some of these attack wounds were very deliberate and anticipated by the perpetrator. It said knife attacks are fast and furious. As you saw those videos that I presented a while ago, they weren't moving slow. They weren't moving slow when they were stabbing. Do you see how fast that guy's hand was going when he was stabbing those people? He wasn't taking his time. So those individuals that almost like insinuate that the stabs were in slow motion, like one, two. You know what I mean? Like those stabs were coming so fast and furious. Another consequence of such close range attacks is the victims tend to fall as they move backward trying to escape their aggressor. Isn't that what we heard about Kaylee? That she was found slumped over, leaning against the wall. So she was backed into that corner, supposedly, as her family stated. So she was backing away from the individual, trying to get space between her and him, whoever it was. This is the case in 55% of the incidents that this person's analyzed. They won't hold back. They won't hesitate. They will go after you like mad dogs. Research tells us someone willing and ready to carve you up like a Thanksgiving turkey is far different than someone with a gun. What can be seen is the aggressor going full on with ruthless determination in an attempt to overwhelm his victim and cause maximum damage as quickly as possible by whatever means necessary. Knife attacks don't last long. Indeed, the average incident for a knife attack from the moment the attack is launched to the moment it stops is 23 seconds. Did you see that? 23 seconds. So if we take that 23 seconds times 4 people times the time it takes to go down the steps and get out to the car and get in the car and take off, does that up to 12 to 15 minutes? You tell me. It says the median time is 14 seconds, which means half the attacks last 14 seconds or less. Wow. 80% of all attacks last less than 32 seconds. It just crazy how all this information is out here and hardly anybody talks about it. Knife attacks are more performed with quick, short, repetitive stabs at different angles. Commonly, there will be a first wave of stabs during which the attacker, taking advantage of the surprise, will land between 5 and 10 stabs. Then, as the victim fights back, trying to escape, the stabs will be spaced out. The more you get cut or stabbed, the more chance a vital organ such as the heart or major blood vessel such as the carotid artery, the neck will be hit, which would result in a quick death. Things go really fast. In one video, the victim totally collapses less than 40 seconds after being stabbed twice. Sure, many people have survived a greater number of cuts and stabs, but the unavoidable truth is that you only need one to die. This is an important point because most attacks are not a single straight thrust, bayonet thrust type of motion, or a wide sweeping stroke. Slash. Knife attacks are predominantly executed with quick, short, repetitive stabs at different angles, switching from low upward stab to the chest to high downward stabs to the neck. Also known as the sewing machine and prison shanking, short, rapid stabs are very difficult to stop because there is not much time and not much space to detect and redirect the attack with a block and strike. The majority of attacks are carried out by using a regular grip, 58.8, but the reverse grip, also known as the ice pick grip, is at 29.9, more frequent than commonly thought. It's worth noting that I've not seen any case of hand swap, i.e. knife being moved from one hand to the other. He's not seen any cases. So that means that what he's seeing is they generally stick with the one hand and they go all the way through in those 23 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and end this. If you want to check out the video in slower time or read through it or listen to my voice read through it, it's 41 minutes long. It's called IDAHO4 Wounds, X-rays, all the rest. It talked about X-rays and things of that nature as well, how you can determine what the X-ray looks like. And I think I have even some shots of the X-rays. So feel free to go through there and help yourself to the information that's available to you. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I thank the creators of the other videos to allow me to commentate and for you guys to watch what they've shown you. Whoever did this was highly skilled or very angry and determined, or both. The truth of the matter is, there's 4 innocent souls that are deceased. And hopefully they got the right person, or hopefully they don't, and they find the right person. One way or the other, those victims need justice. I hope you enjoy this. Please leave a comment. Please leave a like. And tell people about the channel if you haven't already. Hopefully they will enjoy some of the content, even if it is rehashed at times. You know, I try to stay fresh with the information. So I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. And Maestro, cue the music. Cue it, crank it up, and rock this place.